Welcome to the Recruiter Startup Podcast. My name's Dulta Doherty, and in this podcast series, I will be interviewing investors, advisors, entrepreneurs, and recruiters who are based all over the world. And we will be discussing how to set up, scale, and operate a world-class recruitment company. So far, we've covered quite a lot of ground, everything from investment to the early days of starting up. I've interviewed founders all around the world. I've interviewed recruiters who are working for different companies. My mind is going towards two different directions now. I'm going to be bringing on a lot more people in the software world, and I'm going to start interviewing more people who are experts in sourcing. Mainly because there are two areas that I wouldn't say I'm an expert in, but there's so many amazing tools out there that can make our lives easier, and I'm not across it right now, but I will be. And in terms of the sourcing, I think most of you who'll be listening to this will agree that we are at the top of a market here where the candidate is king right now, more so than the client. And finding and engaging candidates is more important than ever in a marketplace where candidates are getting bombarded by recruiters. It's important that we know the best way to approach them and get our timing right. And we can only do that if we understand all the data that's going into their decision-making process, where they're at in their career, and we now have the software to help us do that. But I don't have a clue how to implement it all just yet. But hopefully, over the next few weeks, I'm going to be bringing in some people who have a better idea of this than me. So today, I'm speaking to Ninh Tran. He is an ex-Googler, really smart bloke, who is running a really successful software based out of Mountain View, California. So he's really part of that whole West Coast startup scene. His company is called Hiretuel. That's Hirtuel. And if you listen to any other recruitment podcasts, you'll be familiar with him. He sponsors the Recruitment Animal podcast, and he's been on there a few times. And his story's a really good one. We went through quite a lot of detail in this. Some of the recording was a bit choppy, so I must apologize for that. It was just down to the app crashed a few times. But the general gist of the information I got out of him was really good, and it's really excited me for what might come next in my plan. And yeah, I hope you all really enjoy it. In it, he describes what the product that he sells does, and I think it sounds really great. I haven't used it, so I don't know. I'm going to give it a whirl, and maybe we'll bring him on in a year's time and see what the results are. But really insightful chap Ninh was, and yeah, hope you all enjoy it, and you can take away some great learnings from it, as I am, and I am continuing to really focus in on these areas of sourcing and technology within that. All right, that's enough for me. Over to Ninh. Ninh Tran, how are you?
Doing great. How's it going? Thank you for having me.
Delighted to have a famous person in the recruitment industry like you on the podcast.
Oh, I'm not that famous, but thank you.
So where am I calling to? Where in the world are you?
I'm right now in our office in Mountain View, California, which is the west coast of US.
So you might actually be living my dream right now, hey?
I don't know. I'm living my dream, definitely. I don't know about your dream. But if it is to be in the Silicon Valley, Maybe.
Oh man, you must need sales guys. Come on, man. You need to get me on the team.
Yeah, you gotta be on site to join our team.
How many calls do you need me to make a day? I'll do 100 calls a day. Is that enough?
You do 100 calls. I do about 8 to 10 calls a day.
8 to 10 calls.
Eight
I
to 10
actually only
calls.
do two calls, to be honest.
But
But
my call. Oh, really? Two
yeah,
calls.
we can
Wow.
go into all that though. Um, I got you on the show because I asked the internet, um, who do I need to speak to in the world of sourcing and recruitment tech? Who should I interview? And your name came up, your product came up, and we'll go into that. Just for the record, you're not paying me to bring you on the show.
Thank you. Not that not that I know
of. And I'm not a customer, but I hear great things, and when I hear great things, I want to find out what I'm missing out on, and I know lots and lots of other agency recruiters will be missing out on this as well. So before we go into that, talk to me. You weren't born to be a recruiter, were you? You went to uni and did a proper degree and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Walk me through the backstory of how you fell into our wonderful industry.
It's a long story, but one that I love to
share.
Come
on, give me the highlights. Let's go.
Well, I fell into recruiting when I joined the current company, Hiretuel. Essentially, at the time was Hire Teammate, and we were a bunch of Samsung founders, Google exec. I came from Google previously. I was in engineering, and I had no clue about recruiting. I had some naturally a growth hacker, have some sales and marketing and engineering skills. So I'm kind of like a hybrid of all. But what happened?
Before I let you go into this, tell me about Google. What was that like working as an engineer?
Good company.
That's all. That's all.
It was awesome. The team was awesome. We had awesome food. There's a lot of things that I've learned there. I saw how things are done.
Yeah.
At a speed of light. At the best company in the world, really. But I at some point I felt under challenged and a little bored. So
you were under challenged at the most challenging company in the world.
Well, it also depends on the project that you worked on. Anyways, I had to start before.
So you're in Google.
Yep.
You did a year there. Yep. You had an entrepreneurial background before that after uni. What led to the thought to try and jump into this world?
Well, I have a lot of advisors in my life, and one of them was an entrepreneur who was, under Grace Hopper. If you know of that name, some might, some not, but she is one of the first inventors of in the computer science field.
Okay.
His name is Kurt Bayer, and he told me if you see a rocket ship, just jump on. And I saw a rocket ship.
How did you see it? How did that come about?
So I built a bot to apply to test job boards, right? And Hire Teammate at the time was a job board, employee referral platform. Mm-hmm. And I essentially applied to all their jobs. I saw they had, I think, 5 job postings at the time. And after a while, they had 200 in like 3 weeks. I was like, this is interesting. And they had Google, they had Twitter, they had Uber. So big companies, not just small ones, right? Mm-hmm. Little did I know that they didn't really have contracts with, at the time with any of these companies. They
were scraping, were they?
Not scraping. Googlers actually went there and post jobs, right? But they didn't have contracts with the directors. They had, friends and other engineers. They were posting other engineering roles there. So, different model. So
Mm.
I reached out to Steven and we met. He ignored me for a while, but then we met. He fell in love, and I joined the team. And
And Stephen, who's Stephen? What is he? What was
so
his?
Steven is my co-founder. He's the originator. He's the first guy that quit his job for Hire Teammate.
Hello.
Yeah, so Steven is my co-founder. He's the first guy to quit his job to start the company. He got his boss to quit, and then he got me to quit, and the rest is history. At the we He secured his angel fund. Yes, we did, and I joined. My mission was to get the seed fund, and we got the seed fund about a week after I joined. So yeah, so kind of going back to how I fell into recruiting, right? Uh, so Hard Teammate was a job board employee referral platform. We failed so many times. We built so many different things, right? We did, Uber for hiring. We did for recruitment, automation, the whole process. But that was really me and Jason doing all the recruiting work in the back end. Just gotta sell a story, right? Um, and we did so many different things, and ultimately we ended up being a staffing agency because nobody either wanted to use the products, the stuff that we build, whether ATS, CRM, whether it was a job board, employer referral platform. So we just said, what the heck? Let's just do something to sales before we actually build out the back end and something useful. Yeah, so when I first started doing recruiting, I took a very engineering approach. Right? We built scripts to essentially spam people, send a ton of jobs to candidates, and send candidates to employers that were looking, mostly the ones that had a job listing on AngelList. So I did kind of IT staffing executive search. When I say executive search, means everyone at startup is a director above, right, or VP. Yeah, um, and got clients that way. So we both automated the biz dev and the candidate acquisition, talent acquisition. But it worked for some time. Just like that's kind of the case of spam, right? Spam works. It just doesn't work long term. It will give you an immediate quick boost of candidates, clients, whatever. But what happens is, eventually, if you want to have a strategy that works and is sustainable, that's when I realized that recruiting it's all about relationships, right? And and we had better clients instead of volume of clients like 30, 40 people that sign a contract, right? I had sign my contract, work with me. Do you have do you have budget? Do you have need? Do you have funding? Are you hiring? How actively you're hiring? What is the cost of not hiring? Right? Hmm. Yeah, that's true. I tell them, hey, your time talking to me is like air. If if they don't talk to me, right, then I just drop it. Um, because if you're not able to build a relationship with your clients and they don't, for some reason, just sign to say, hey, go away, right? And I had them, right? Passive hiring, just send me candidates and never interview or even acknowledge, then then that's when you know that you're most likely not going to hire. I mean, I've had cases where I hired with a client that was super busy, right? Um, but that's at a bigger company as well, right? Where I had like a recruiter or head of talent in between, or coordinator, kind of managing the inflow of candidates, and pushing them forward into their process. So always had someone to talk to. Now, if you directly work with like a co-founder or founder, right? They need someone yesterday. Um, it's really about kind of showing your work to them. So I created a freaking candidate presentation, and here's why he fits your job, right? And this is how many candidates I look through, and so on and so forth. Each submission. Uh, yeah, I mean, they because you know, yeah, it's money is precious when you're a startup. It's got to go a long way, and they're hardworking. I want to show them I'm also hardworking. I'm here at freaking 10 p.m. sourcing candidates for you. and um, and yeah, we'll say, come on.
The computer said no there, Nen. You were just telling me about Stephen, your co-founder.
Yeah, so Steven is my co-founder. He's the first guy to quit his job to start the company. He got his boss to quit, and then he got me to quit, and the rest is history. At
And
the
did you guys have funding at the time?
we he secured his angel fund. Yes, we did, and I joined. My mission was to get the seed fund, and we got the seed fund about a week after I joined. So
And what was the company back then? What essentially did it
yeah,
do?
so kind of going back to how I fell into recruiting,
Sure.
right? Uh, so Hard Teammate was a job board employee referral platform. We failed so many times. We built so many different things, right? We did, Uber for hiring. We did for recruitment, automation, the whole process. But that was really me and Jason doing all the recruiting work in the back end. Just gotta sell a story, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Um, and we did so many different things, and ultimately we ended up being a staffing agency because nobody either wanted to use the products, the stuff that we build, whether ATS, CRM, whether it was a job board, employer referral platform. So we just said, what the heck? Let's just do something to sales before we actually build out the back end and something useful.
you learned something interesting about recruiters there too, hey?
Yeah. So when I first started doing recruiting, I took a very engineering approach. Right? We built scripts to essentially spam people, send a ton of jobs to candidates, and send candidates to employers that were looking, mostly the ones that had a job listing on AngelList.
Mm,
So I did kind of IT staffing executive search. When I say executive search, means
sure.
everyone at startup is a director above, right,
Mm,
or VP.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, um, and got clients that way. So we both automated the biz dev and the candidate acquisition, talent acquisition.
And did
But
it work?
it worked for some time. Just like that's kind of the case of spam, right? Spam works. It just doesn't work long term. It will give you an immediate quick boost of candidates, clients, whatever. But what happens is, eventually, if you want to have a strategy that works and is sustainable, that's when I realized that recruiting, it's all about relationships,
Bingo.
right? And and we had better clients instead of volume of clients, like 30, 40 people that sign a
How
contract,
did you qualify
right?
that?
I had sign my contract, work with me.
But
Do you
yeah,
have do you have budget? Do you have need? Do you have funding? Are you hiring? How actively you're hiring? What is the cost of not hiring?
but do you
Right?
test them out on anything? Like do you like one of the most common things is if you take on 10 job orders,
Mm-hmm.
half those clients are just going to be kicking tires. Was there any testing that you put into
Yeah,
place?
that's true. I tell them, hey, your time talking to me is like air. If if they don't talk to me, right, then I just drop it.
Mm,
Uh, because if you're not able to build a relationship with your clients and they don't, for some reason, just sign to say, hey, go away, right? And I had them, right? Passive hiring, just send me candidates and never interview or even acknowledge, then then that's when you know that you're most likely not going to hire. I mean, I've had cases where I hired with a client that was super busy, right?
mm-hmm.
Um, but that's at a bigger company as well,
Sure.
right? Where I had like a recruiter or head of talent in between, or coordinator, kind of managing the inflow of candidates, and pushing them forward into the process. So I always had someone to talk to.
Mm,
Now, if you directly work with like a co-founder or founder, right? They need someone yesterday. Um, it's really about kind of showing your work to them.
sure.
So I created a freaking candidate presentation, and here's why he fits your job, right? And this is how many candidates I look through, and so on and so forth. Each submission.
Wow.
Uh, yeah, I mean, because
That's okay if they have skin in the game, though.
yeah, it's money is precious when you're a startup.
Sure.
It's got to go a long way, and they're hardworking. I want to show them I'm also hardworking. I'm here at freaking 10 p.m. sourcing candidates for you. and um, and yeah,
What was your big takeaway from getting on the tools and doing recruitment? And at what point did you stop spamming and actually start building relationships?
as I was saying, if the candidate, right, if you don't have the candidate will essentially apply or make a career move only if it fits their life where they are, if it's relevant,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, why do people go to concerts? Well, they might like the music, they might like the band, but ultimately, why people go is for themselves. They want to have a good time, right?
Mm-hmm. But I suppose the problem is, like, we're trying to build relationships with people who don't want to build relationships with us in many cases, and until they absolutely need to, and then they're happy to engage with recruiters, and they're seeing all recruiters as the same person. So I suppose from a technology standpoint, I suppose firstly
Well,
we need to kind of, like, in my view anyway, we need to know how can we know when they are looking and what they are looking for, and what can we do to embed ourselves in that.
I actually want to flip the script. I mean, if you want to connect with people that don't want to talk to you, and if that's the mindset, right, then you're gonna have a miserable time. What I think about.
Trust me, I recruit IT recruiters. I Most of them are miserable. It's a tough
Yeah,
gig.
so change the mindset, right? It's I think a lot of the initial stages of reaching out and getting response from candidates, it's very similar to just networking or even dating, right? As a guy, and you're trying to win the girl, right? Um, you're at a party and nobody wants to talk to you because you're new, nobody knows about you. Then there's some things that you can do. Get to know people, be in that community of engineers, right? So that people get to know you, get to trust you, you build your reputation. When you do reach out, oh, I know this guy. I know it's impossible, right? At a large scale, but you can do it at a small scale. You can specialize, um, and or you can improve your personal branding, right? It's it's a very it's essential human that people want to engage and talk to people that they respect and that they like. Okay. So just like you would dress nicely to go somewhere to meet people, you can polish your online presence,
Sure you
right?
can, yeah.
Yeah, and do that. Or and here's another thing, right? Uh, recruiters on average get maybe 5 to 20% response rate. Okay, if you are a manager level, your response rate all of a sudden goes to 30 to 40%, right? C-level people get about 40 to 60%, right? If your company is like Google, you're gonna get 80% or
Oh,
higher.
you mean internal recruiters, because agency recruiters don't get response rates that high.
Well, I was I was an agency, a staffing, right? Person. So don't call yourself recruiter, like a junior recruiter. No one's gonna respond to you because you know what? It's not your fault. It's all the other guys that are spamming people. It's my fault essentially when I started, right?
Yeah, it's your fault.
uh,
Yeah.
yeah. So come up with creative titles. Be a human, right? It's they don't want to like I don't want to connect with the robot. They don't want to connect with the robot. They don't want to connect with a sales guy who's always trying to sell you something, right? Like if you know network marketing knocks on my door, sends me an email, automatic spam. I don't even answer, right? But if it's someone that I know or that I heard of, and it would like if you have the next executive role for, she will answer, but you just gotta do it with dignity and respect.
Okay, so let's jump into how did you apply? So you went from spamming, then you figured out
Uh-huh.
relationships. You started learning about
Yep.
recruitment. You're getting into it. You're realizing that you need to be around people. You need to be in their community. You need to build a relationship with them. You need to hit them at the right time and with the right message, but you need to do it with dignity. How did you turn that into technology, and what what was that process like for you?
Yeah. So for us, I think it started from the very beginning. We were, a bunch of engineers that quit their jobs at big companies, and we wanted to build a tech startup in the recruiting space. We scaled our engineering team from like 20 engineers to 120 engineers within a year. So we thought we knew everything,
Wow.
but we didn't. We failed miserably, right? Because HR tech and doing internal hiring is very different. Now, um, I did the IT executive search for about almost 2 years, and there was a story where in the front was AI for recruiting.
So then I was just saying, at what point did you realize that spamming wasn't the way forward and relationships were? And what did you do at that point?
The point came when we were hitting kind of the social media restrictions on too many repeated actions. So, for example, I was posting all of my jobs to Facebook groups,
Mm-hmm.
right? And if you do it enough and you don't change the content, then what happens is Facebook will put you in what I call Facebook jail, right? If you message and connect with too many candidates on LinkedIn, same thing, LinkedIn jail, right? You say, hey, verify yourself, or wait a week or two or a month. I couldn't afford waiting. I had about 30 open regs at any given time. 6 to 10 of them were executive. So, and that's when I realized it's not sustainable to go and move fast at that speed with that method. And when I build my connections um, on LinkedIn, then I realized, well, it's probably a lot easier to build the relationship, really get to know the candidate, see what makes them tick, as well as on the client side, right? It's the initial learning curve that you get
Mm.
when you do something new, to when I did something new, and the more I connected with our recruiting community, right? You
Mm-hmm.
have you have SourceCon, you have Source Houston, you have Source 7, NWRA, right? Experts in our space, they're all about, hey, build relationship, right? Because they've been there, done that. I was just trying to reinvent the wheel in my
Sure.
own personal way, but it's good because I've learned my own mistakes,
Mm.
and I understand why the relationship and treating people with dignity, giving them time, and kind of what you do with me here, just asking good questions and actively listening,
Yeah, and
right?
one of those questions that springs to mind, and I want to ask you it because you're an engineer, so your brain is wired different to mine, and if you're like any other engineer, I know you'll cringe at being sold to,
Yeah,
and and traditionally, like not all recruiters, but a lot of recruiters can have a bad name for being too salesy and
yep,
for not being consultative enough, and it's it's a real challenge. It's a real challenge to get over. What have
yeah.
how did you go about that first off?
Yeah, I think when you realize that the messages that you send to candidates, like, hey, you're a great candidate, perfect skill, perfect match for my job, here's a link, apply,
Mm.
right? Is number one, very lazy, right? And number two, you're not going to get a lot of people to respond to you, except for the ones that are actually real looking or desperate. Most of the people
Mm-hmm.
that for the roles at least that I worked on, they're not entry level roles. They're
Yeah.
gonna be experienced, right? Even executive director and VP roles. No one will read a job description, right?
Mm-hmm.
They want to hear more about the company, the team, why it fits into their life,
Yeah.
right? So a lot of times I had to kind of when I brought on a new client, I had to learn why I want to work for this client in the first place
Yeah.
before I start selling the role. right? So selling is human. Everybody sells something. Everyone is someone else's client, right? Whether you're an engineer or not.
But
Um,
here's the tough bit, right? If
mhm.
engineers specifically, they they don't want to be approached unless they're absolutely in need of being approached. So if they need a job, they're fine to use a recruiter, but they hate getting bombarded by recruiters. I think
I actually,
you're going to go into
yeah,
a bit of a solution on this, right?
yeah. I actually want to challenge that a little bit. It's not just engineers. It's just human in general, right? Engineers tend to be a little bit more introverted, and they don't want to deal with, they work. Uh, we work over here 12, 14-hour days, 6 days a week, right? If you're on our engineering team, that's why we're able to get the good product out there. But
Mm-hmm.
um, like let's say even I'll talk about, let's say, my wife, right, who's a software engineer even now, right? She gets 20, 30 emails from recruiters every single day
And
that
here
she
we
has
go.
to
This is the main point.
and you know for her, it's there's nothing personal in those emails. Everyone's saying the same thing, right? Everyone wants her to apply, and it's always about the recruiter. It's always about, what I what the candidate can buy or do for you, right? And for us on our recruiting. So as I was saying, if the candidate, right, if you don't have the candidate will essentially apply or make a career move only if it fits their life where they are, if it's real, right? Like, why do people go to concerts? Well, they might like the music, they might like the band, but ultimately why people go is for themselves. They want to have a good time, right? Well, I I actually want to flip the script. I mean, if you want to connect with people that don't want to talk to you, and if that's the mindset, right, then you're gonna have a miserable time. What I think about, yeah. So change the mindset, right? It's I think a lot of the initial stages of reaching out and getting response from candidates, it's very similar to just networking or even dating, right? As a guy, and you're trying to win the girl, right? Um, you're at a party and nobody wants to talk to you because you're new, nobody knows about you. Then there's some things that you can do. Get to know people, be in that community of engineers, right? So that people get to know you, get to trust you. You build your reputation. When you do reach out, oh, I know this guy. I know it's impossible, right, at a large scale, but you can do it at a small scale. You can specialize, um, and or you can improve your personal branding, right? It's it's a very it's essential human that people want to engage and talk to people that they respect and that they like. Okay. So just like you would dress nicely to go somewhere to meet people, you can polish your online presence, right? Yeah, and do that. Or, and here's another thing, right? Uh, Recruiters on average get maybe 5 to 20% response rate. Okay, if you are a manager level, your response rate all of a sudden goes to 30 to 40%, right? C-level people get about 40 to 60%, right? If your company is like Google, you're gonna get 80% or higher. Well, I was I was an agency, a staffing, right? Person. So don't call yourself recruiter, like a junior recruiter. No one's gonna respond to you because you know what? It's not your fault. It's all the other guys that are spamming people. It's my fault essentially when I started, right? uh, yeah. So come up with creative titles. Be a human, right? It's they don't want to like I don't want to connect with the robot. They don't want to connect with the robot. They don't want to connect with a sales guy who's always trying to sell you something, right? Like if you know network marketing knocks on my door, sends me an email, automatic spam. I don't even answer, right? But if it's someone that I know or that I heard of and it would like if you have the next executive role for she will answer, but you just gotta do it with dignity and respect, right? Uh huh. Yep. Yeah. So for us, I think it started from the very beginning. We were, a bunch of engineers that quit their jobs at big companies, and we wanted to build a tech startup in the recruiting space. We scaled our engineering team from like 20 engineers to 120 engineers within a year. So we thought we knew everything, but we didn't. We failed miserably, right? Because HR tech and doing internal hiring is very different. Now, um, I did the IT executive search for about almost 2 years, and there was a story where in the front was AI for recruiting. So what happened was,
Yep.
we're sitting around and we're like, wow, you know, we started to on a path to build a tech startup, gonna disrupt everything, and it's just me and Jason running the small business over here, right? Um, and and essentially, what we did is throughout the whole time we had a clear goal of getting back into technology,
Hmm.
but we really needed to learn the recruiting ourselves, the real challenges, how it works, the whole process, and become successful with it, right? Um, so so I think we started building internal tools at that time, whether it was ATS or CRM, right?
Hmm.
Also started building the AI infrastructure in the knowledge graph, and um, and I was scaling the team, and I really needed some help, so I hired like an intern straight fresh intern, was still in college, never touched recruiting, not IT guy. He studied like marketing or business. Right, was a sophomore, and I trained him how to recruit, and I
Mm-hmm.
also these internal tools, and one of them was, what would be a grandfather of Hiretuel today, kind of a Chrome extension that you can go and take on LinkedIn, and it would tell you if this guy is a Java guy or front end or back end, or what he is, what tech stack he has, right? Because one of the things that I identified when I started recruiting is when I trained Jason, because he doesn't have a technical background, is he doesn't understand a lot of tech stack, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this would bridge the gap quickly. He could screen the profile, see if he's a good match, and reach out to him. Now, this intern made a hire in 1 month, right? From just starting to recruit, he placed a junior web developer, and he paid for himself a couple times over.
Lovely.
That's when we knew that we had something real, something not just cool but useful. Well, that's what we thought. Okay, um, and then we kind of opened it up to the beta, to the wider community, and when
And they
you go
destroyed it, did
online,
they?
yeah, like we had like 200 signups within like a couple of days, 2-3 days, to join the beta, and a lot of people destroy it. A lot of people use it. I called like almost every person there, and they were telling me, yeah, Nate, it's cool product. It's very innovative. I like the analytics and whatnot, but it's not very useful. Exactly what you want to hear after you spend like years and years building stuff, right? Um, and really, Hiretuel at that time, that was kind of like a last ditch effort for us.
Were you running out of money?
No, we weren't running out of money. We made a pretty good, decent money with the staffing, right? We placed like a CTO on 50% commission one time. Yeah, we like staffing is lucrative business, man. It's not rocket science. Actually, easy money. It's just hard work, right?
I
Anyways,
know.
so we weren't like swimming cash, but we were able to like afford to feed our engineers, and they're expensive, and eat ramen.
Yeah, for sure.
Really, yeah. And
What were the key things that came out of the beta that you learned?
well, people were asking us, well, you guys work really well on LinkedIn. Can you guys work on different sites, because we need to find more people? Everyone's fishing on LinkedIn, right?
What?
They
Sorry,
give us.
sorry. Tell us, what does your product do on LinkedIn?
So when we started, we had a Chrome extension that you could check out someone's profile on LinkedIn, and it would tell you if this person is a front end person, back end, if he's Python or Java or whatever he does. It kind of cuts a little bit through the noise
Oh,
and gives
lovely.
you a quick screen.
So,
And
like
then,
IT recruitment for dummies, almost.
yeah, kind of like that. It still does it today, because although it's cool, right? We
I'm
figured.
a dummy, so like, I mean, it sounds good.
Hey, we all get stuck once in a while, and I totally get that. Anyways, people were telling me it's cool, not useful, and they were asking for more stuff. And like I did recruiting, so I listened to them, and some of the requests weren't great, but some of them were on point. To ask for, hey, we need contact information. We need, could you add like a Boolean search in there? Could you search beyond just LinkedIn? Can you search like Facebook, GitHub, or Angelus, or all those cool places? And we got really immersed in the community. We launched at SourceCon with the contact finder. We essentially built whatever people were asking for.
Mm-hmm.
um, and the more stuff we build, we quickly. I am very fortunate that my technical the co-founders are both very technical, and even So my co-founders are really technical, and they push the really top product. And quickly, I don't know why, maybe in the HR tech, there's not that much many great engineers or what it is, but we became quickly the top contact finder, the top Boolean builder and search, and could be also uh, because of the time that we really spent to build a good infrastructure and infuse our AI with real knowledge.
Yeah, and you embedded yourself in the community, so
Yeah,
you really and you got slaughtered in your beta. So
yeah.
so
I
so,
mean,
so you
we
did all
got
the
really,
right
really,
steps, right?
yeah, that's true, and we got really, really lucky. I mean, I'm very blessed, right? Community is behind us. They love us. I love them.
They really do. Hey,
They do.
it's
Yeah.
I'm always like I'm always blown away by it. You know, you just get shouted out. Like a lot of it seems to be internal recruiters, but
Yeah.
they're really passionate about it. Um, so let's throw it into where the company is at now and what it does, and
Mm-hmm.
I want you to think about it from the perspective of somebody who might be listening to this. Um,
Hmm.
so this podcast helps people set up and scale recruitment companies. And
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the talk we've done is about operations stuff, but we haven't jumped into tech or sourcing. Um, and this is what we're here for. So, could if you were to set up an IT recruitment business tomorrow,
Mm-hmm.
and it was based in San Francisco or California, and it was a
Yep.
niche recruitment
Yep.
business. You've picked, let's pick cybersecurity. Okay.
Sure.
You can go for the jobs are in California, but you could go for cyber across the US. They don't need to have government clearances, and
Sure.
within cyber, we might pick the mid level. So not the entry, not the executives, the mid level, the
Yeah.
kind of the real gravy stuff that people go for. So that's the kind of information you have.
Sure.
What's the
Easy,
sourcing
man.
strategy? How does it work?
Easy. My sourcing strategy would be essentially Hiretuel as a central sourcing platform.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I would personally use also hook up Hiretuel to Mixmax, which is a kind of like a CRM. Um,
Does that work with Hiretuel?
it works with Gmail,
Okay.
and I would obviously do Google Suite, right? Hiretuel connects and integrates with Gmail, and so does Mixmax.
Okay. So we're using Mixmax as the CRM.
Yep.
Okay.
Max as CRM. We also have like a candidate engagement, but I personally like to really go really deep and advanced
Mm-hmm.
into building my engagement processes and the cadence. That's why I would use Mixmax either directly through Gmail, or I can actually export. So what Harcho can do, even before I go into the process, is we can help you generate list of qualified candidates with the right skill set when you need them, faster, more accurately, and better than any other sourcing platform out there. And a lot of people say we're the best, uh, but I know the numbers and the ROI, and specifically for anything white collar, professional,
Sure.
cyber, whether it's clearance.
Let's jump into what that means for me as the recruiter in front of my desk.
Right. So for cyber, it's simple, right? We would find I would get list of leads from Hartro, put them into Mixmax, okay, create a sequence there, say, "Hi, how's it going?" Or more like,
And is Hiretuel doing this through your account with LinkedIn? Does it
"No,
integrate with that type of stuff?
you don't need." No, I wouldn't get LinkedIn Recruiter. I would get LinkedIn Premium.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean though. So sorry. It integrates with LinkedIn and you're allowed to do that on LinkedIn, are you?
It doesn't integrate with LinkedIn.
Okay.
Okay, LinkedIn is a standalone platform in its own. What what we're able to do is we already have all of LinkedIn's candidate. And what you would use LinkedIn only for is to engage people, connect and message.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So I would I would get the list of people from Hiretuel. I would message them, email them, first touch in Hiretuel, and then
So,
I would add.
sorry, I'm not very good at this, so I just really want to
Sure.
get into the
Yeah,
detail.
yeah, yeah.
You mentioned that in Hiretuel you have the people already. Does that mean that you have a back end process that is constantly adding and scanning and adding people from all over the web within niche disciplines? Is that how that works? Or
Yes,
okay,
we have a ton of candidate data. It's
okay,
about 680 million
wow.
professionals that you
So
can
that's a
use.
so that's a whole massive thing that you've been working
Yep.
on, and that's amazing. Okay,
Yeah.
right.
Um,
That's a game changer. Okay, cool. Sorry, jump on.
more data than LinkedIn, right? In majority of the other platforms out there, and that's something that actually differentiates us from from any platform. Really, is the amount of data that we have. And when you think about any kind of, there's a lot of AI fakes out there, but when you think about any AI solution, right, it's gonna be as good as the data that it has.
Mm-hmm.
So because of Harshal, and if I use it as a central sourcing tool, I really spent time on it. I learned how to use it, know how to use it. I can expect to make at least 1 to 2 placements a month. Okay. And the process is very simple. You get a list of candidates that match from Harchel. You
Mm-hmm.
message them, you create follow ups right on Harchel. Okay. And then when the follow up expires, whether people reply and so on and so forth, you can actually also load those candidates into Mixmax. Okay. In Mixmax itself, you can create a longer sequence. If people, let's say, reply positively, right, then the sequences stop. But
Can I
then you
ask
can,
another
yeah,
question?
go ahead.
When you say you're reaching out to them, are you reaching out to it's not like LinkedIn where I reach out on LinkedIn. We're reaching out to them. Are we reaching out to them on their mobile number, on their email address? What are we reaching out to them on?
So email is going to be automated. Okay. I have built out a template that's fairly personal. You
Okay.
don't you don't pitch the job, but you kind of pitch their future, right? Um, what
That's
it
kind of the
can
way I
be.
work right now.
Yeah. And you don't give everything, right? You just give enough for them to be intrigued and for them to respond to you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the highest response rate that I have gotten is essentially I wrote a whole bunch of interesting things about the client and the role, and then I kind of cut off the email in the middle. And people are writing back, "Hey, can you finish what you were writing?"
Yeah, that's really clever. That would
Yeah.
work.
So
Yeah, or make a few typos so people correct you.
right. Or when you're doing leadership roles, right? Then type in like when is your next promotion?
Yeah.
Simple. Doesn't have to be long. Can be long. Just try to personalize the first message if you can. I personally don't, just because I do and I don't. I do it for executive roles. I don't do it for like mid level roles. So this is mid level cybersecurity, right? Anyways, so you do that, and then of course you also create tasks in Mixmax to call people, right? So every day you wake up, the emails are there, you process the emails, and you start calling left and right. So Harcho also gives you personal cell phones and personal emails. You load it to the system, and what you do is, you know, what you will find is you don't even need to call, because with the volume of the candidates that you can get from the sourcing platform and put it into the rest of the engagement
Mm-hmm.
systems, you like right now I do 8 to 10 calls a day, but my calls last, up to from 30 minutes to an hour, average is about 15 minutes, right? Because I usually talk to people who are interested in
Sure.
Hiretuel, right? So you would spend your time with people on phone screens and building a relationship. I would, from the engagement, I recommend people to include Calendly.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I use. Essentially, a calendar
Yeah,
scheduling system
aware of
where
it.
people can schedule you, right? Use the pro versions, $10 a month or something like that, and you can put qualifying questions there. Hey, you know, are you authorized to work? So on and so forth, right? Little questions like that. Or what makes you tick? What are you really passionate about,
Yeah.
right? Um, and and if you do this efficiently enough and your process is right, which is not very hard, but you gotta know what you're doing, you can literally fill your days with phone screens with the candidates that you actually want to talk
That's
to.
unbelievable.
Right?
It does the same pro,
It's
and
done.
that's it.
It's done, and it's actually you can reach out to like Michael Doran, who's who's been with us since the beta, and he's progressively went from free then to paid services and then to the pro AI services, and now he can tell you firsthand kind of the progression of his recruitment process um, and efficiency. Now he just spends an hour a day, an hour a week, really, to generate the list, loads it in, to get the funnel healthy, and all he does for the rest of the week is just talk to candidates.
Unbelievable. Yeah, if I could fill my calls with day, if I could fill my days with calls, I would. I'd be loaded. It would make all the difference. Mix Max, we've got Calendly and we've got Hiretuel, and we've got obviously got the Google Suite. Um, is that it? Is that all we need?
That's all you need for sourcing passive candidates. Yeah. I have I have other tools that I use.
Why,
Use
why, why am I not making loads of money as an IT recruiter? Well,
well, talk to me, and I can kind of figure out the process. The other half is really getting you getting your clients on board, right? Fifty
yeah.
percent of the pain is hiring managers. Really.
I'll tell you what I'd love to do. I'd love to put this plan into action, and then we reconvene and see if it worked in 6 months or a year's time.
Awesome. Sounds like a plan, man. I'm really excited.
I'm really excited because
Yeah.
I think I explained I'm a rec to rec. So we recruit recruiters, mainly UK recruiters who either want to move in London or Dublin or move abroad to America mainly now.
Mm-hmm.
So I suppose a lot of my clients would be people who would need this type of solution. But my background is I did 4 years as an IT recruiter, and we do plan to move to America at some stage. And
Oh,
my
nice.
wife, yeah, my wife's just had two kids in 2 years, so our plan is that
Congratulations.
she'll jump back into the rec to rec business, and I will eventually jump back into setting up an IT recruitment business, which I really want to do again. But I'm too far into this one to give up the revenue that it comes. So I'm in a bit of a juxtaposition professionally. So, and so I am looking for tools and ways from outside of trying to help other people with how they're setting up their business. I am really interested in how I can do it on a personal level, and hey, I'm willing to try and see if this will work and give it a go.
Okay, sounds good. I'm happy to connect. If you really are looking for more efficiency and you're committed to trying new tech and adopting an AI technology, I'm everywhere. You can email me, give me a call. I'm on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Twitter.
Look at this guy.
Or
this guy comes on a podcast and he's closing me. He's closing me on the podcast.
I will be transparent here, okay?
Oh, here we go.
I know that you're in UK, and guess what?
GDPR, baby. Yes. You're going to talk about GDPR. Baby. I'll tell you what, I don't give him monkeys. I'd only do it in America.
Okay, if you do it only in America, you'll be in bank very soon, my friend.
All right. Hey, let's one day discuss this in the Bay Area. Let's leave it at that. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I'm really going to give this a whirl when I can get into the other space that I want to. Hopefully I can have a wee look sooner than later. I really respect your time for coming on here. I know you're running a major company and you've got lots of staff to take care of, and hopefully this gets out to a few people that haven't heard of you on the LinkedIn space. And yeah, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you. I really enjoyed our conversation. I'm very honored to be here. I'm very much part of the community. So, just talk to me. I'm very easy to talk to, I hope.
You are, mate. You are. Thank you so much. Take care. Talk soon.
Take care. Bye.
Well, a massive thank you to Ninh for coming on the podcast. I really like the sound of his product. I haven't tested it out yet, but I'm going to give it a whirl. I'm pretty excited by all the cool tools that are out there. And, there's a lot of fear amongst recruiters about technology. And, I think we should just embrace it to really try and get all our businesses to the next level. I think it's really important to automate and outsource all the heavy lifting, so you're in a position where your time and energy is focused on consulting and creating influence, because only the recruiters at the top of the funnel are going to survive, because administration is going to be a thing of the past. Anyway, we will have another few guests on next week. And I might put out a couple of quick, short podcasts on some of the things that I have learned doing this show and some of the things that are working for us as a business. We've been in business now for 3.5 years, and I would say I've made every mistake somebody could make. So maybe you can avoid some of the things I've done, and I can help you out that way. All right, till next week, and thanks as ever for your support, your kind messages, and if you're enjoying the podcast, please do send it to another recruiter. Take care. God bless.
The podcast you just heard was made using Anchor. Ever thought about making your own podcast? Anchor makes it really easy for anyone to get started. It's a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing podcasts. Best of all, it's 100% free. Sign up now at anchor.fm/new. That's anchor.fm/new to get started.